Google has long been a staple in our everyday lives. With just a few keystrokes, we access a wealth of information on everything from how to fix a leaky faucet to discovering obscure historical facts. It's second nature now, but what if this dominant role that Google plays in our lives were to change? That's exactly what the U.S. Department of Justice wants to happen. And in 2024, they made significant moves to challenge Google's monopoly on the online search market. This case could be the beginning of a monumental shift in how we use the internet, with some predicting the end of Google's unchallenged reign. But is that really what's best for users? Let's dig into the details of Google's legal challenges and what this all means for the future. The Department of Justice's antitrust case against Google. The Department of Justice is accusing Google of using its dominant position in the online search market to stifle competition and maintain a monopoly. In a landmark ruling in August 2024, a U.S. judge declared that Google had illegally maintained its dominant position, much to the dismay of many tech enthusiasts. The Attorney General described the ruling as an historic win for the American people, marking it as one of the most significant antitrust cases in modern history. Google controls roughly 90% of the search market, generating an astounding $75 billion yearly in revenue from search advertising alone. That's more than the GDP of entire countries such as Kuwait, Slovakia, and Oman. According to the Department of Justice, Google achieved this level of dominance through unfair practices, which has led to what they see as an unhealthy concentration of power. What exactly is a monopoly? To better understand the case, it's important to grasp what the DOJ means by a monopoly. Technically, a monopoly doesn't have a specific legal definition, but companies with a market share over 50 to 60% usually attract regulatory scrutiny. Once a company reaches 70 to 75%, they're almost certainly seen as monopolistic. At 90% market share, Google is clearly the subject of attention from regulators. It's not just the size of the company, though. It's about how they behave. In Google's case, the Department of Justice alleges that they've been engaging in anti-competitive conduct that prevents others from entering the market. How Google allegedly manipulated the market. One of the most significant accusations against Google is that they raised prices for online ads because there simply wasn't any competition. Advertisers had no choice but to use Google's platform if they wanted to reach their audience. The Department of Justice's case points out that Google incrementally increased prices in a way that went unnoticed by advertisers, blending it into the normal market fluctuations. This practice allowed Google to generate billions in revenue without much pushback from advertisers who assumed these price hikes were part of the natural ebb and flow of the market. But it wasn't just the price manipulation. Google also reportedly conducted internal studies in 2020 to see what would happen if they significantly reduced the quality of their search product. The conclusion? It wouldn't hurt their revenue, because users had nowhere else to go. This finding is what the Department of Justice sees as a clear indication of monopoly power. A company that can lower the quality of its product without fear of losing customers is undoubtedly in a dominant position, paying to keep the competition away. Another key point in the case is how Google maintained its dominance by paying to keep competitors out. The company paid billions to major players like Apple and Samsung to ensure that Google remained the default search engine on their devices. In 2022 alone, Google reportedly paid Apple $20 billion for this privilege. This wasn't a one-off deal either. These payments have almost doubled since 2020. For Google, this investment paid off. With Apple's iPhones accounting for a massive share of internet traffic, Google solidified its dominance in mobile search, where 95% of general search queries on iPhones go through Google. The Department of Justice argues that this arrangement stifles competition and makes it impossible for other search engines to get a foothold in the market. Hiding evidence and destroying records? Another damning aspect of the case is the accusation that Google deliberately destroyed and hid evidence. According to the Department of Justice, Google trained its employees to avoid creating a paper trail that could be used against them in court. This tactic allowed them to skirt certain legal consequences, though the judge noted that Google might not be so lucky in future cases. Is Google too big to innovate? Some experts believe the case against Google is less about antitrust and more about targeting success. David Friedberg, an entrepreneur and angel investor, argues that the Department of Justice is punishing Google for being successful rather than for harming consumers. He points out that just because a company is big doesn't necessarily mean they're engaging in unfair practices. Google, however, does have competitors in the ad space, including Meta, Amazon, and TikTok, which some argue weakens the Department of Justice's case. While Google dominates search, the broader digital advertising market is shared with these other giants. Angel investor Jason Kakanis pointed out that newer players like Instacart, DoorDash, and Uber are also entering the advertising space, offering fresh competition. What could happen to Google? The Department of Justice's options range from breaking up Google into smaller companies to forcing them to abandon their exclusive deals with Apple and other companies. Some have even floated the idea of separating YouTube or Google's Android operating system from the rest of the company. Breaking up Google, proponents argue, could unlock value for shareholders and foster more innovation within the smaller companies. If Google were to break itself up voluntarily, it could potentially avoid further legal action, much like AT&T did in the 1980s. However, if forced, the consequences for Google could be significant. At the very least, they might be required to eliminate their exclusive contracts, which would open the door for competitors to make gains in the search market. AI and Google's future. A big part of the Department of Justice's concern also lies in the future of artificial intelligence. With Google's advancements in AI, particularly with projects like Google Gemini, there's growing worry that Google will extend its dominance into this emerging field. The Department of Justice is scrutinizing how Google plans to integrate AI into its services and what that could mean for competition. Interestingly, Google might reach out to rivals like Microsoft and OpenAI to show that AI development is competitive, potentially to ease government fears that they'll dominate the AI space as well. Another legal battle looms. As if the search case wasn't enough, Google is also facing a second lawsuit focusing on their online advertising business. The Department of Justice claims that Google controls 80% of the market where advertisers buy ad space and a whopping 91% of the servers that publishers use to sell ads. This case, set to be argued soon, will look into whether Google used its dominance in the ad industry to unfairly crush competitors. What does this mean for you? For the average user, this legal battle could mean better competition and innovation in the long run. Google's dominance has led to some criticisms about the quality of their search engine, with users complaining about irrelevant results, SEO spam, and excessive ads. If competition increases, Google may be pushed to improve their product. However, it's also important to recognize that Google has done a lot of good. They've created an incredible ecosystem of products and services that have revolutionized how we use the internet. Breaking up the company could have unintended consequences, potentially hindering innovation and disrupting services that people rely on. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. What do you think about Google's antitrust case? Should Google be broken up, or is it just too successful to ignore? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future updates on tech, business, and innovation.